Daniel stared at the worn photo of a tiny girl with tear-streaked cheeks, the child no one else wanted. Back then, the weight of the world seemed to rest on his shoulders, but something inside him whispered that she deserved a chance. That moment, a silent promise was made. He would protect her no matter what. Little did he know, that decision would change both their lives forever. Years passed like a blur, filled with struggles and small victories. Emily grew from a shy, uncertain girl into a woman of fierce intelligence and quiet strength. But Daniel never imagined the power she was quietly building behind the scenes. Every late-night meeting, every whispered conversation, was a step toward a destiny neither could have predicted. One evening, as Daniel sat alone in his office, an unexpected email blinked on his screen. The subject line caught him off guard. "Your successor." His breath hitched, heart pounding with a mixture of pride and disbelief. The girl he once held close, the one no one believed in, was now pulling strings he'd never seen coming. Emily's voice echoed in his mind, soft, determined, unstoppable. "I'm not just your daughter anymore, Dad. I'm the future." The words cut through the silence, both a challenge and a gift. Daniel realized then that the love he'd poured into her had blossomed into a force far greater than he ever dreamed. The weight of this revelation settled. Daniel's emotions swirled. Shock, pride, fear, and above all, an overwhelming sense of hope. The girl no one wanted had rewritten the rules. And now, the world was about to see what they both were truly capable of. Daniel's eyes widened as he reread the email, disbelief flickering across his face. His hands trembled slightly, the chair creaking as he leaned back, trying to process what just happened. "She did what?" he muttered under his breath, voice thick with shock. Around him, the office felt unusually quiet, like the world was holding its breath. For a moment, he couldn't decide whether to feel proud or completely blindsided. Emily stood just outside his door, waiting nervously, her heartbeat loud in her chest. She knew this was risky, stepping into his world without warning, but she believed in her vision. When Daniel finally looked up, his eyes searched hers, a mix of confusion and something softer, hope. Neither said a word. The weight of what had just happened hung heavy between them. This was just the beginning. Daniel rubbed his temples, forcing himself to calm down as the initial shock faded into something more complex. He tried to steady his voice when he finally spoke. "You made me CEO? Behind my back?" His tone was a mix of disbelief and a touch of admiration. Emily nodded, biting her lip, waiting for his reaction, whether anger or acceptance. The room felt charged with unspoken questions. Emily's lips curled into a small, nervous smile. "I did it because I believe in what we can do together." Her eyes glimmered with determination, though she still felt vulnerable under his gaze. Daniel studied her, searching for any sign of doubt or betrayal, but found only unwavering resolve. The moment was fragile yet electric, a turning point neither could ignore. Daniel's chest rose and fell as he took a deep breath, letting the reality settle. The surface tension was palpable, shock, disbelief, and a hint of pride swirling in the air. This was more than a surprise. It was a challenge to everything he thought he knew. Yet beneath it all, a flicker of something powerful stirred, a hope that maybe, just maybe, this unexpected move could change their lives forever. Daniel's fingers hovered over the keyboard, frozen as the words of the email blurred before his eyes. The shock was immediate. He blinked rapidly, trying to will the message away like a bad dream. How could she do this without telling me? The thought echoed through his mind, clashing with a swelling pride he tried hard to suppress. His jaw clenched tightly, betraying the storm of emotions beneath his calm exterior. Outside the office door, Emily paced slowly, her heart hammering against her ribs like a wild drum. She pictured his reaction 100 times, but none matched the reality. The mix of surprise, disbelief, and the unspoken love that lingered between them. Her hands trembled as she folded and unfolded her arms, waiting for him to break the silence. Each passing second felt like an eternity, filled with the weight of their shared history. Daniel finally exhaled, a slow breath that seemed to carry years of doubt and hope all at once. "Behind my back," he repeated softly, as if saying it aloud would make it more real. His voice was low but not angry, curious, almost vulnerable. For a moment, he stared at the ceiling, caught in the struggle between feeling betrayed and being amazed. The silence that followed was heavy, but it spoke volumes. Emily stepped inside cautiously, eyes locked on his face, searching for any sign of rejection. "I didn't want to ask for permission," she confessed quietly, "because I knew you'd say no." Her voice cracked with emotion, but her resolve was clear. She was no longer the unsure girl from years ago. This was her stand, her way of proving she belonged. Daniel's expression softened just a fraction, the father in him stirring beneath the CEO. The room held a fragile tension, words left unsaid, feelings barely contained. Daniel's shoulders relaxed slightly, and his eyes shone with a mixture of awe and a newfound respect. The surprise wasn't just about the email, it was about the woman Emily had become, the power she wielded quietly but fiercely. In that charged moment, everything shifted. Nothing would ever be the same again. Daniel's gaze drifted to the framed photo on his desk, Emily as a small girl clutching his hand with wide, trusting eyes. He remembered the day he brought her home, the whispers and sideways glances from people who didn't believe she'd make it. They didn't see her worth, but I did. That moment still burned bright in his mind, a silent vow that no one else would decide her future. His thoughts swirled back to the nights spent comforting her after nightmares, the countless hours tutoring her when school felt like an impossible mountain. She was fragile but fierce beneath the surface. He had watched her grow, always fighting to prove she belonged in a world that tried to push her aside. And now she's leading in a way I never imagined. The memory of her first hesitant steps into the company office came flooding back, her quiet determination, the way she listened more than she spoke. She learned, adapted, and waited for the right moment. Daniel's heart ached with pride and regret. Did I protect her enough? Did I prepare her for this fight? The questions lingered like shadows he couldn't shake. He recalled a late night months ago, when Emily confided in him about the barriers she faced: doubt, jealousy, exclusion. I wanted to shield her, but she needed to break free. That internal struggle, the need to hold on and the need to let go, weighed heavily on Daniel now. Maybe this bold move was her way of showing me she's ready. As he sat alone, Daniel's mind echoed with unspoken words between father and daughter. Love, fear, hope, and the relentless drive to survive. She's not just the girl I adopted, she's the woman reshaping our future. The past and present collided inside him, setting the stage for a new chapter neither of them could have predicted. Daniel's eyes welled up, the weight of years pressing down as tears threatened to spill. He blinked rapidly, trying to hold them back. But the flood was inevitable, silent tears tracing lines down his weathered cheeks. His hands shook slightly, trembling not from weakness, but from the storm of emotions raging inside. For a brief moment, the powerful CEO was just a man overwhelmed by love and disbelief. A tight, shaky smile forced its way onto Daniel's lips, fragile and uncertain, like a fragile bridge between pride and vulnerability. He cleared his throat, swallowing hard as he struggled to steady his voice. Emily watched quietly, her own eyes glistening, sensing the depth of what her father was feeling beneath that fragile smile. The room seemed to hold its breath with them, caught in this raw moment. Daniel wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, the movement slow and deliberate, as if trying to regain control. His chest rose and fell unevenly, his breathing shallow but steadying with effort. Though he wanted to say more, words got caught in his throat, replaced by the silent language of tears and trembling fingers. The emotional weight was almost too much to bear. Emily reached out hesitantly, placing her hand over his trembling one, a small act of connection and reassurance. Daniel's eyes met hers, and in that silent exchange, they both found a fragile peace. It was a moment of unspoken forgiveness and understanding, bridging the gap between their past struggles and the uncertain future ahead. Daniel couldn't shake the nagging feeling that there was more behind Emily's bold move, a secret she wasn't ready to share. As he studied her, a flicker of doubt crept into his mind. Why now? The timing was too perfect, too calculated. Something was lurking beneath the surface, and Daniel's instinct screamed that this was just the tip of the iceberg. Emily's eyes darted away briefly, a shadow crossing her face like a secret she fought to hide. She swallowed hard, the silence between them stretching longer than comfort allowed. Daniel caught the subtle shift. Her hesitation was real, but so was her determination. What aren't you telling me? The question burned inside him like a slow-burning ember. The office felt colder, the air thick with unspoken truths and concealed intentions. Daniel's fingers tapped nervously on the desk, searching for any clue in her expression. His mind raced through possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. Is this about the company, or something personal? The mystery wrapped tightly around their reunion, refusing to unravel easily. Emily finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. There's something you need to know, but I wasn't ready before. Her words hung heavy, as if carrying a weight that could shatter everything between them. Daniel leaned forward, heart pounding. The moment of truth was closing in, one that could either break them apart or bind them forever. As silence returned, Daniel's mind spun with unanswered questions, the mystery growing deeper with every heartbeat. The girl no one wanted had become a force to reckon with, but the real story was still hidden in the shadows, and Daniel knew deep down that uncovering it would change everything. Emily reached into her bag and pulled out a worn envelope, its edges frayed from years of handling. Daniel's eyes narrowed as she placed it gently on the desk between them. The envelope was sealed but marked with his initials, a connection to a past he thought was buried. I found this when I was going through old files, Emily said quietly, her voice trembling just slightly. He hesitated before breaking the seal, the paper inside yellowed and fragile. Unfolding it slowly, Daniel's heart skipped as he recognized the faded handwriting. His own. The letter was a promise he made long ago, one he'd almost forgotten in the chaos of life. This changes everything, he whispered, eyes scanning each line, feeling the weight of a vow that had never been fulfilled. Emily watched him carefully, the tension between them thickening like storm clouds. It's more than just a letter, Dad, she said, voice low but firm. It's a reminder of why we started and what we need to fight for. The words hung heavy in the air, binding past and present in a fragile thread of hope and unresolved pain. Daniel's fingers trembled as he traced the ink, memories flooding back with painful clarity. The letter spoke of trust, sacrifice, and a future they once dreamed of together. But it also hinted at betrayal, someone who tried to tear them apart. The first clue was clear. Their journey wasn't over, and the real battle was just beginning. Abre Ale. Daniel looked up at Emily, the determination in her eyes mirrored his own. The clue was a beacon, lighting a path through the darkness. Together, they would uncover the truth and fight for the family and legacy that nearly slipped away. Daniel read the letter again, slower this time, catching details he'd missed before. There was a name scribbled in the margin, almost erased by time. Harrison. It jolted something deep within him, a memory buried so far back he wasn't sure if it was real or imagined. His pulse quickened. That name hadn't crossed his mind in decades, not since the company was nearly destroyed. From the inside. Emily leaned forward, her tone firmer now. I found more. Files hidden in the archives under a dummy code all dated 28 years ago. She placed a flash drive next to the letter, her hands steady, her eyes unreadable. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. "Why would you dig this deep?" he asked, half in awe, half in fear. She answered without blinking, "Because you didn't." Daniel's chest tightened. Was it really possible that everything, the company, her adoption, even their relationship, was built on something tainted? He suddenly felt unsteady, as if the ground beneath him shifted. The deeper they went, the more it felt like a betrayal had been hiding in plain sight. "I thought I saved you," he whispered. Emily responded, "Maybe you did, but someone tried to stop you." As he plugged in the flash drive, years of suppressed memories clawed their way to the surface. Boardroom arguments, forged documents, and the silent departure of a close friend who never explained why he left. What if that wasn't an accident? Emily had opened a door Daniel never meant to unlock. But now that it was open, he couldn't look away. Emily clicked open a file labeled "Adoption Disputed." Daniel leaned in, his eyes darting across the document. An official record, red-stamped and edited. But it wasn't the file that made his heart sink. It was the note scribbled at the bottom in familiar, sharp handwriting. "Don't let this ruin everything. Destroy before seen." It was signed only with an initial. H. He drew back, pulse racing. "This was covered up," he muttered, quiet fury creeping into his voice. Emily nodded. "And there's more. Every file tied to my name ends on the same day. Your board voted to cut funding to the orphan program." Daniel's eyes darkened. He remembered that day. But he didn't know why it had happened. Now he feared it wasn't just budget cuts. It was personal. In another folder, a company memo surfaced, dated the day before Emily's adoption was finalized. It mentioned a board member requesting a delay for reputational concerns. The words were cold, calculated. "Someone wanted me gone before I was even yours," Emily whispered. Daniel's jaw clenched. Was it possible the adoption was almost sabotaged from within the company? The foreshadowing couldn't be clearer. The deeper they went, the more it seemed like someone had been trying to erase Emily's presence entirely. This wasn't just about power or position. It was about control. And Daniel began to understand. The real enemy had been sitting close to him for years, smiling, shaking hands, pretending loyalty. Emily met his gaze. "They thought I'd vanish, but I stayed. I worked. I watched." The past was no longer buried. It was bleeding into the present. And whatever came next, neither of them would be the same. Emily reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a smaller, leather-bound notebook. "This isn't from the company," she said softly, placing it gently in Daniel's hands. "It's from your wife. She gave it to me the day she passed." Daniel froze. His late wife Clara had never mentioned this. Not in words, not in letters. The room felt suddenly smaller, colder, as he opened the pages and saw her handwriting. The first page was addressed to both of them, Daniel and Emily. His hands trembled as he read, "If you're reading this, it means the truth finally found its way home." Clara had known something, suspected it, maybe even lived with it in silence. Tears welled in Daniel's eyes as her words unfolded like a map of things unspoken. "They wanted to break you, but I chose her because she reminded me of you, Daniel." Emily looked away, blinking fast. "I didn't understand it back then, but I do now. She chose me not just for who I was, but because she feared what would happen to you without me." Daniel clutched the notebook, its weight suddenly unbearable. Clara had shielded them both in ways he never knew, softly, quietly, invisibly. Now what else had she protected them from? A folded photograph fell out of the last page. An image of Clara, Emily as a child, and a man Daniel didn't recognize. On the back, a note. "The one who tried to stop us is the one who said he loved us most." Daniel's mind spun. Who was this man? His chest tightened. Nothing could have prepared him for this. Clara had left behind a trail, but it wasn't to uncover pain. It was to finish what she started. Now, what no one expected was that Clara had been fighting the same enemy long before they ever knew he existed. And she'd left just enough for them to finish the war she couldn't. Daniel stared at the photograph, his grip tightening as the edges bent in his hands. The man beside Clara? He looked oddly familiar. Too familiar. Emily leaned closer, her voice quiet. You've seen him before, haven't you? Daniel's heart dropped. That's Marcus. The name left his mouth like poison. Marcus, his oldest friend, his business partner for over 30 years. The man who gave the toast at their wedding. A silence fell over the room, thick with betrayal. He's the one who warned me about adopting you, Daniel whispered, remembering now. He said it would ruin the board's trust, that I needed to choose legacy over sentiment. Emily's jaw tensed. He tried to erase me and keep you in his control. Every piece was falling into place, sharper, colder. This was never about her. It was about controlling him. Emily unlocked another folder, revealing internal memos from years ago. Financial decisions, manipulated votes, and quiet smear campaigns, all signed off or influenced by Marcus. He kept you close so he could steer everything, she said. He knew if I stayed, I'd grow, and one day I'd protect what you couldn't see. Daniel felt the sting of regret and rage rise in his throat. He trusted Marcus with everything. But then came the final twist. A time-stamped document, just 3 months old, showing Marcus had been trying to legally challenge Daniel's will, arguing that Emily's role as successor was invalid. Daniel's breath caught. Even now, even after everything, Marcus was still trying to take it all. But he hadn't known Emily had already been pulling strings in the background, quietly, fiercely, turning every attempt into failure. The twist was cruel and beautiful at once. Emily had been saving Daniel from Marcus the entire time, without him ever knowing. And now that everything was exposed, they had one final move to make. Together. Daniel stood by the window, the city lights below flickering like fading memories. He had built this empire brick by brick, but never saw the cracks until now. Emily sat across the room, calm yet determined, the evidence spread out before them like a battlefield. We can't just let him walk away, Daniel said, voice low. Emily nodded. We won't, but we won't become him either. A board meeting was already scheduled for Friday. Marcus would be there, confident, unshaken, still believing he held all the cards. Daniel looked at the letter of challenge, his will, the forged claims Marcus submitted. He thinks I'm still blind, he muttered. Emily rose, fire in her voice. Then let's open his eyes, but not with hate, with truth. Their strategy wouldn't be revenge. It would be revelation. Together, they began to prepare, not just files and proofs, but words that could burn lies down and build something stronger. Emily drafted her statement with sharp elegance, while Daniel edited his speech with a rawness that bled straight from the heart. He'll expect a fight, she said. Daniel looked at her, eyes glassy. Let's give him something worse, our forgiveness and his silence. The next morning, they rehearsed. Every sentence had to land. Every moment had to feel real. Because it was. The company Marcus thought he owned was now in the hands of the girl he tried to erase. And the man he tried to manipulate had finally seen him for what he was. This wasn't just set up for a confrontation, it was the beginning of a new legacy. They were no longer preparing to confront the past. They were ready to rise above it and close it with grace. Daniel adjusted his cufflinks, staring at his reflection in the glass wall of the boardroom. But the man staring back looked older now, tired, scarred, but awake. How did I not see it? How many signs did I ignore just to keep peace? He wondered. Regret twisted in his chest, not just for the betrayal, but for the time lost in silence. Clara tried to tell me. Emily tried to protect me. And I failed them both. Across the hall, Emily stood in the restroom, palms pressed against the cold marble sink. You don't need to be afraid, she told herself. You've been surviving since the day no one wanted you. She took a deep breath, remembering Clara's laugh, Daniel's awkward but kind smile the day he adopted her. This isn't just revenge. This is restoration. But her heart still fluttered like a trapped bird. As they walked down the long corridor toward the boardroom, Daniel's thoughts drifted to the day he first saw Emily at the orphanage. Small, stubborn, quiet. I didn't know what she would become. I just knew I couldn't leave her behind. And now she was leading him into battle. His chest ached with pride and shame. She became more than I ever imagined. Because she had to. Emily's heels echoed on the polished floor. They won't believe me at first, she thought. They'll look at me and still see the girl in the background. The charity. Case, the outsider. But then she looked at Daniel beside her, his face set with determination. But he sees me now. And that's all I need to finish this. She swallowed hard. This is our moment, Mom. You knew it would come. Their thoughts were a chorus of sorrow, strength, and reckoning. And as the doors opened, revealing Marcus waiting with his usual smug grin, both knew this wouldn't be easy, but it would be honest. The boardroom fell into a heavy silence as Daniel and Emily entered. Marcus rose, buttoning his suit jacket with rehearsed charm. Daniel, he smiled, you've brought your guest. He glanced at Emily, barely hiding his condescension. I trust this won't delay business. Emily met his eyes with unshaken stillness. We're here for clarity, and the business is the reason. Daniel didn't sit. He placed the leather-bound notebook in front of him. Clara left this behind, he said quietly. She wanted me to know the truth. About you. About what you did behind my back. The directors exchanged uneasy glances. Marcus scoffed. Daniel, you've been under pressure. Don't let grief cloud your judgment. But there was a flicker, a shift in his jaw. He knew what was coming. Emily slid the internal memos forward. Years of manipulation, financial gatekeeping, smear campaigns aimed at silencing me and steering Daniel's votes. She didn't flinch as she spoke. You thought no one would dig this deep, but I had everything Clara left me, and I used it. Murmurs rose across the room. One director leaned forward, scanning the dates. Is this real? He whispered. Marcus stepped forward, eyes narrowing. You think this little girl, this adopted pet project, knows anything about running a legacy? Daniel's eyes blazed. That little girl just saved everything I built, while you tried to bury it in your ego. His voice broke, then steadied. You said you loved Clara, then you tried to erase her daughter. That wasn't business. That was cowardice. Emily placed one final file on the table, an audio recording. Marcus's voice echoed out, cool and unmistakable. He's old. She's a footnote. The board just needs to believe I'm holding the reins. No one moved. No one breathed. The truth was no longer hidden. It was alive, playing in stereo and tearing down every lie Marcus had built. Silence clung to the air like smoke after an explosion. One by one, the board members turned. To Marcus, no longer a confident architect of their future, but a cornered man exposed by his own voice. His throat tightened as he tried to speak, but the words collapsed. That recording means nothing without context. But no one nodded. No one moved. Even the assistant by the door looked away in quiet shame. Daniel slowly sank into his seat, eyes glassy, breathing shallow. He betrayed me. He betrayed her. Every file, every memo, every echo of Marcus's voice stabbed deeper than he expected. He turned toward Emily, but his words choked. I let him guide me. All this time. I let him shape the company. I let him shape me. His hands trembled as he wiped his face. You were right. You always were. Emily didn't smile. She didn't gloat. Her voice was low and steady. I didn't do this to humiliate you. I did it to set you free. From him, from the past, from the idea that love should make you blind. Her hands remained flat on the table, calm. I was never trying to take your place. I was trying to protect it, for you. For a moment, even Marcus stopped breathing. A board member, older and usually quiet, finally leaned in. Daniel, he said, voice heavy with weight, we owe you everything, but we can't pretend we didn't see this. Marcus has to go. Another voice added, and she's proven more integrity in this meeting than most of us have in years. One by one, heads nodded. Even those who once doubted, Emily now leaned into her quiet authority. Marcus backed away, his mask cracked and crumbling. You planned this, he hissed at her. You knew how to destroy me. Emily stood now, tall and unflinching. I didn't destroy you, Marcus. You did that to yourself. I just held up the mirror. And in that moment, everything shifted. The empire Marcus tried to claim was no longer his to touch. Daniel sat with his face in his hands, shaking from the weight of it all. Not just the betrayal, but the years wasted trusting the wrong person. How could I not have seen it? The boardroom around him blurred, not from confusion, but from tears he no longer had the strength to hide. I built this company with a dream, he whispered, but I was asleep when the dream started to rot. Emily touched his shoulder, gently, firmly. Then wake up with me, she said, her voice like a hand pulling someone from the deep. Start again, with truth, with the people who actually believe in what you built. Daniel looked up, searching her face. You still believe in me? She nodded once. Always. That word held the weight of every lonely birthday, every moment she waited to be seen. Across the table, Marcus finally exploded. You're all fools. This girl, she doesn't know the first thing about leading. She's a charity case who got lucky. But his shouting no longer pierced the room like it used to. His power drained with every desperate word. One of the younger board members turned to him coldly. She didn't get lucky, she got prepared, and you got exposed. Security was called, not for chaos but for dignity. Marcus was escorted out, still snarling, but ignored. The doors clicked shut behind him like the end of a long, toxic chapter. Daniel stood again, back straighter than before. He looked around the room, then at Emily. It's time this company remembered what it stands for, and who we stand beside. He turned to the board. Effective immediately, I'm stepping down as CEO. A shocked gasp swept the room. Daniel raised his hand. But not without naming my successor. She's been here all along. She knows this business. She knows what integrity looks like. And she's the only one I trust to lead it forward. His eyes met hers. Emily, if you'll accept, the company is yours. Emily froze. Her heart thundered like a war drum in her chest. The room waited, the world waited, and even Daniel held his breath. She stared at him, not as the man who saved her from foster care, but as the father who finally saw her. You're serious? She whispered. Daniel nodded, emotion in his eyes. You've earned it, Emily. Not through blood, but through fire. She looked at the board. These were the people who once doubted her, who once only saw the adopted girl in the corner office, brought in by pity. But now their eyes were different. Respect. curiosity, even hope. If I accept, Emily said slowly, I want to rebuild this company from the inside out. Real values, community investment, employee-first culture. And then softly, Clara's legacy, not just profit. One director leaned forward. And what about the shadow Marcus left? Emily met his gaze with unwavering calm. I'm not afraid of shadows, she said. I grew up in them, but I also know how to find light. Daniel smiled through watery eyes. She's stronger than I ever was, he whispered to himself. In that moment, the old guard gave way to something new and stronger. Emily reached into her bag and pulled out a folder titled Phoenix. The board blinked in surprise. You had a plan? Someone asked. She smiled faintly. I've had it for years. I just never had permission to fly. She laid out the vision, reviving local partnerships, rebuilding trust with transparency, and lifting the next generation from within. This isn't just business. This is legacy. Reborn. Daniel placed a hand over hers. Take it, he said, voice barely holding. Take everything I once thought I had to protect from the world, and make it better. Emily nodded, the fire in her eyes calm, determined. I will. And just like that, the goal wasn't survival anymore. It was transformation. And the future finally had a name. Daniel sat back, the weight of years pressing down on his shoulders like a stone he'd been carrying too long. He looked at Emily, her face steady, glowing with a fire he hadn't seen before. I thought love was enough to protect you, he whispered, voice breaking. But I was wrong. I didn't just fail you, I failed myself. Tears welled in his eyes. Not from weakness, but from the shock of truth finally breaking through. Emily reached across the table, her fingers trembling but steady, and took his hand. You loved me the only way you knew, she said softly. But love isn't always enough. We needed truth, honesty. That's what built us up, and what will carry us forward. Her voice cracked with a raw tenderness. The daughter and father, now united not just by blood but by understanding. We're stronger now. Daniel's gaze fell to their joined hands, the connection electric and fragile. I held on to pride for so long, he admitted, and it blinded me. I wanted to believe in the Empire, in Marcus, more than I wanted to believe in you. He swallowed hard. But today, I see what really matters. And it's not a building or a title. It's this. Us. The room around them faded, leaving only the fragile bond rebuilt. Emily's eyes shimmered with tears as she smiled, a genuine, fierce smile that spoke of battles fought and won. We've both been broken, she whispered, but that's what makes us real. That's what makes us unstoppable. The room seemed to breathe with them, hope mingling with pain, promise with scars. We're not just rewriting a company's future, we're rewriting ours. Daniel nodded slowly, finally at peace. I'm proud of you, he said, voice thick with emotion. Not because you're my daughter, but because you fought when no one else did. Their hands tightened, sealing a pact forged in fire and tears, a pact that nothing, not even betrayal or pain, could ever undo. Daniel's composure cracked like fragile glass, the years of hidden pain spilling over in silent sobs. His hands trembled as he covered his face, unable to hold back the flood of grief that had been bottled inside for decades. I lost so much, he whispered brokenly, voice thick with regret. Not just my father's empire, but my chance to protect the people I love. The room softened, empathy wrapping around him like a warm blanket. Emily's breath hitched as she watched him unravel, her own heart aching in response. She stepped closer, kneeling beside his chair, careful, to not overwhelm but to offer steady comfort. It's okay to break, she said gently. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be honest. Her hand brushed his shoulder, a silent promise that he wasn't alone in this fight anymore. The walls between them began to crumble. Tears welled in Emily's eyes too, not just for Daniel's pain, but for the years she had felt invisible and unloved. I wanted to be enough, she confessed, voice trembling, but I never thought I would be. The confession hung in the air, raw and exposed. Today, I'm starting to believe I can be. It was a fragile hope, but a seed planted deep in broken ground. The boardroom's tension shifted, no longer a place of power and judgment, but a sanctuary of healing and truth. Daniel inhaled sharply, wiping his eyes, and finally met Emily's gaze. Thank you, he whispered. For being my daughter, for being my strength. The room held its breath as two broken souls found solace in shared pain and the fragile beginnings of forgiveness. Outside the walls of that old boardroom, a new chapter quietly began to write itself. A story not of success or failure, but of healing and the courage to start again. And in that moment of collapse, there was an unexpected kind of strength. Daniel looked around the room, eyes lingering on Marcus's empty chair. For a moment, bitterness flared inside him. Years of betrayal, deception, and broken trust boiling to the surface. But then he took a deep breath and shook his head. No, he said quietly. This isn't about revenge. It's about healing, about building something better than what was broken. Emily nodded beside him, her voice steady and warm. We could tear down what Marcus built, but that would only leave a void. Instead, let's fill that space with kindness, transparency, and respect. Her words carried the weight of hard-won wisdom. The real power isn't in punishment. It's in forgiveness and the courage to change. One by one, the board members softened too, their faces reflecting a collective understanding. The past was painful, yes, but it didn't have to define their future. Let's make this a company known for how it lifts people up, not tears them down, Emily added. That starts with us, right here, right now. Daniel's eyes glistened as he met Emily's gaze. Thank you for reminding me what real strength looks like, he said. It's not about winning battles. It's about winning hearts. In that moment, the room filled with a quiet hope, a promise that they would rise from the ashes together. Emily stood tall, the weight of the past slowly lifting from her shoulders. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, she said softly, but learning to live with the scars, turning pain into strength. Her voice carried the promise of new beginnings, not just for the company, but for every broken piece within them. This is about understanding each other, our flaws, our fears, and our hopes. Daniel nodded, eyes shining with a mixture of relief and gratitude. I spent years holding grudges that only hurt me, he admitted. Now I want to build bridges, not walls, between us, the employees, and the community, because understanding is what turns isolation into connection. His words echoed through the room like a healing balm. The board listened quietly, absorbing the shift from conflict to compassion. Emily continued, We'll create spaces where voices are heard, mistakes are forgiven, and growth is celebrated. This company can become a family, not just a business. Her conviction sparked a ripple of hope, touching even the most skeptical hearts. Daniel reached for Emily's hand again, their bond stronger than ever. Together, we'll heal what was broken and grow into something new, something real. The room seemed to breathe with them, united by a shared vision of empathy and restoration. This is just the beginning. Emily's confident smile faltered as Daniel handed her a thick, worn envelope sealed with an old family crest. There's something you need to see, he said quietly, his voice heavy with hesitation. She broke the seal and pulled out faded documents, letters, photographs, and a confession that shook her to the core. The truth buried beneath years of silence was about to rewrite everything. The papers revealed Marcus's darkest secret, not just betrayal in business, but a hidden connection to Emily's biological family. He wasn't just a ruthless CEO, Daniel whispered. He was protecting something, or someone, and it's tied to you. Emily's heart pounded as she read, her hands trembling. This revelation wasn't just about the company. It was about her own identity. For a moment, the room grew still. Breath caught in throats as the weight of the secret settled. Emily looked up, eyes wide with disbelief and a flicker of fear. All this time, she murmured, I was fighting. Battles I didn't even know were mine to fight. The hidden past suddenly cast long shadows over her every step, every choice. Daniel placed a steady hand on her shoulder, his own eyes filled with regret and hope. Now we know why Marcus acted the way he did, he said, and why you're meant to take this legacy forward, not just to rebuild, but to redeem. The shock wasn't just a blow. It was a call to rise stronger than ever before. Emily stepped away from the heavy truth, feeling the walls closing in. But then Daniel stood moving beside her like a shield. No matter what, he said firmly, this is your safe space. Here, you are protected. Here, you are valued. His voice was steady, unwavering, a promise that no storm would tear them apart now. Around them, the board members softened, their eyes reflecting newfound respect and understanding. One by one, they nodded in silent agreement, creating an unspoken pact of support. The room transformed from a battlefield into a sanctuary, where wounds could begin to heal without fear of judgment or attack. Emily took a deep breath, the weight of isolation lifting slightly. For the first time, she felt surrounded, not alone. Thank you, she whispered, voice breaking with relief. This means everything. The strength of collective compassion wrapped around her like a warm embrace, a fortress against the outside world. Daniel squeezed her hand gently, grounding her in the present. Together, we'll face everything that comes next, he said, with quiet conviction. You don't have to carry this burden alone anymore. His words were more than comfort. They were a lifeline, anchoring them both to hope. And so, in that moment, amidst uncertainty and fear, a safe space was born, a place of rescue, protection, and unwavering support where healing could truly begin. The room fell silent as Emily stood in front of the board, ready to face the storm of judgment she feared. But instead of cold eyes and harsh whispers, she saw something unexpected: kindness. Daniel's voice broke through the tension, calm and clear. Let's choose empathy over blame, he said, because understanding is our greatest strength. One by one, the board members nodded, their faces softening. No longer critics, they became allies. We've all made mistakes, said Sophia, a longtime executive. What matters now is how we grow from them. The shift wasn't just in words, it was a shift in power, from fear and judgment to compassion and trust. Emily felt tears prick at her eyes, overwhelmed by the grace offered instead of condemnation. Thank you, she whispered, her voice trembling with gratitude, for seeing me, not just my past. The moment became a turning point, where vulnerability was met with respect and healing began to bloom. Daniel stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Kindness is the real legacy we build today, he said. And with it, we create a future that no secret or mistake can destroy. The power in those words filled the room with hope, a beacon shining through the darkest doubts. Emily sat, alone in her office, the city lights casting long shadows across the walls. Her mind churned with conflicting thoughts, torn between loyalty to Daniel and the burning desire for justice. Can I forgive and still protect what's right? She whispered to the empty room. The weight of the hidden truth pressed down, threatening to crush her spirit. Memories of betrayal clashed with moments of genuine kindness, blurring the line between right and wrong. If I expose everything, she thought, I risk losing the family I never had. But if I stay silent, am I betraying myself? The question echoed relentlessly, a storm raging inside her heart. Every choice felt like a sacrifice. Daniel's words of empathy haunted her, reminding her that compassion wasn't weakness, but fear whispered louder. What if kindness is just a mask for weakness? She wondered, trembling. The internal battle left her exhausted, caught between anger and hope, vengeance and mercy. The future hinged on a fragile decision. In the silence, Emily closed her eyes and searched for strength within the turmoil. I want to heal, she vowed softly. But can I truly let go of the past? The moral dilemma wasn't just about business. It was about who she wanted to be. A leader shaped by pain or by grace. Emily's phone buzzed late into the night, a message from an unknown number flashing on the screen. Her breath caught as she read, "Some truths are safer left. Buried." A chill ran down her spine, the warning laced with mystery and threat. The suspense tightened around her like a noose, blending fear and determination into a fierce resolve. Her mind raced with questions. Who sent the message? What secrets were still hidden in the shadows? Each heartbeat echoed louder, pounding, with the weight of unspoken emotions. Doubt mingled with hope as she realized the fight was far from over. This was just the beginning of a deeper, darker story. Daniel sensed her unrest the next morning, his eyes searching hers for answers she wasn't ready to share. Whatever comes, we face it together, he promised, his voice steady but tinged with worry. The emotional stakes soared, pulling them closer amid the growing storm. Trust and uncertainty collided in every glance exchanged. As Emily prepared for the day ahead, every step felt heavier, charged with the suspense of what might surface next. The emotional undercurrent threatened to overwhelm, but it also fueled her courage. She knew that beyond the fear lay a chance for truth and redemption, if she dared to seize it. After days of tension, Daniel reached out to Emily with an unexpected gesture, a simple bouquet of lilies, her favorite. I want us to move forward, not just as partners, but as family, he said softly, his eyes sincere. The offer of peace wasn't just about business. It was about healing broken bonds and rebuilding trust from the ashes of pain. Emily hesitated, the memories of betrayal still fresh, but something in Daniel's calm presence stirred hope inside her. Maybe peace isn't weakness, she thought, but the first step toward real strength. Her heart, still guarded, allowed a flicker of possibility. What if they could truly forgive and rebuild? The boardroom felt lighter that day as Daniel publicly acknowledged past mistakes and committed to a new path of honesty and respect. We're in this together, he declared, and the room responded with cautious optimism. It was a fragile truce, but one filled with promise. Emily accepted the lilies, a silent acceptance of the peace offered. Let's see where this path leads, she whispered, her voice a mixture of hope and vulnerability. In that moment, the war between doubt and trust began to ease, replaced by a fragile but growing bond. As Emily held the lilies, her mind drifted back to a quiet afternoon decades ago, when a young girl sat alone in a crowded orphanage, longing for a family. She remembered the cold walls and empty dinners, the whispered hopes that no one ever came to claim her. That little girl had been invisible to the world, unwanted and forgotten. She saw herself at 8 years old, clutching a worn teddy bear, eyes wide with fear yet shining with fragile hope. Then came the moment Daniel appeared, a stranger with kind eyes and an outstretched hand. You're not alone anymore, he had said softly, changing her life forever. The memory was bittersweet, wrapped in gratitude and lingering pain. Her thoughts flashed to the countless nights spent working to prove her worth, battling self-doubt and the weight of expectations. Each success carried the shadow of that lonely child, reminding her why she fought so hard. Those memories fueled her determination, but also deepened the ache she tried to hide. In that moment, Emily understood that her past wasn't just a story of struggle. It was the foundation of her strength. The memories wove a tapestry of resilience and hope, illuminating the path forward. She knew that embracing her past was the key to unlocking her future. And so, with the echoes of yesterday guiding her, Emily faced the challenges ahead, ready to transform pain into power and reclaim her destiny. Emily sat in silence, the weight of betrayal pressing heavily on her chest. Forgiveness seemed like an impossible mountain, steep and cold, yet somewhere deep inside, a flicker of acceptance tried to break through. How do I forgive when the pain runs so deep? She wondered, tears threatening to fall but held back by sheer will. Her mind replayed the moments of hurt, the lies, the broken promises, the secrets that shattered trust. Each memory felt like a fresh wound, raw and unforgiving. But alongside the anger, she caught glimpses of Daniel's genuine remorse, a hint of vulnerability that made the battle within even more confusing and painful. At times, she wanted to turn away completely, to close the door on the past and everyone involved. Yet a small voice whispered that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting. It was about freeing herself from the chains of resentment. The struggle was brutal, a tug-of-war between heartache and hope. Emily's hands trembled as she clutched a faded photo of her and Daniel from happier times. Could she find the strength to accept him as he was, flaws and all? The question lingered, heavy and uncertain as she wrestled with the possibility of healing without losing herself. The diner's door slammed open, and Emily's heart skipped a beat. A roaring engine echoed outside as 300 bikers pulled up, their leather jackets flashing under the streetlights. Whispers filled the room. Why were they here, and what did they want from her? The air thickened with suspense, every eye locked on the growing crowd. Emily's hands clenched the counter, her breath shallow but steady. This can't be happening, she thought, panic warring with determination. Among the sea of faces, one man's eyes met hers. Daniel, the man she thought she knew, but now wrapped in layers of mystery. What secret had he brought with him? Outside, the rumble grew louder, the bikers shifting like a living storm ready to crash down. Emily's mind raced, searching for answers in the chaos that had suddenly exploded into her life. The moment held electric tension, a crossroads where fear, loyalty, and courage collided. No one spoke, but the silence screamed volumes. This was more than a reunion. It was the beginning of a reckoning that would change everything. Every heartbeat felt like a ticking clock, counting down to a truth waiting to be revealed. The lead biker stepped forward, peeling off his helmet to reveal a face Emily hadn't seen in years, her long-lost brother, Lucas. Her breath caught, memories flooding. Back of the night they were torn apart. The silence that followed, and the pain she buried deep inside. I never stopped looking for you. His voice cracked, raw with years of regret. Daniel's expression softened as he nodded toward Lucas. We've been protecting a secret you weren't ready to hear. The room held its breath, the weight of untold truths hanging heavy between them. The twist wasn't just about family, it was about survival, sacrifice, and love tangled in the shadows of the past. Emily's eyes shimmered with tears, a catharsis washing over her like a storm breaking. Through the clouds, the walls she built around her heart trembled, threatening to collapse under the force of this revelation. Forgiveness suddenly seemed possible, even inevitable. She wasn't alone anymore. The bikers, once a looming threat, now stood as a shield of loyalty and protection around her. The tension shifted into a powerful release, anger melting into understanding, fear transforming into hope. The secret that haunted her was no longer a chain, but a key. Just as the tension peaked, a quiet voice cut through the heavy silence. Harper, a biker known for her tough exterior, stepped forward. Emily, you're not alone in this, she said firmly, her eyes filled with unwavering loyalty. No one expected her to be the one offering support, but her presence brought an undeniable strength to the room. Harper's calm confidence eased the fear that had gripped Emily's heart. "We've got your back," she promised, her words carrying the weight of unspoken battles fought and won. This unexpected alliance shifted the energy from confrontation to solidarity, transforming enemies into protectors. Daniel exchanged a glance with Harper, silently acknowledging the power of unity in their fractured family. Together, they formed a silent pact to face whatever came next, side by side. The unexpected ally wasn't just a person. She was a symbol of hope emerging from the darkest places. Emily felt a surge of gratitude and relief wash over her. For the first time, she realized strength wasn't just about standing alone. It was about trusting others to stand with you. Harper's support was a lifeline, pulling her from the edge of despair. Harper reached into her jacket and pulled out a worn envelope, its edges frayed from years of handling. "There's something you need to see," she said, voice steady but urgent. Inside was a faded photo of young Emily, smiling brightly beside a man she barely remembered. A man who wasn't Daniel but someone from her past she'd long forgotten. Emily's. Fingers trembled as she unfolded a cassette tape slipped inside the envelope. The label was handwritten, "For Emily, when the time is right." Her heart pounded as she inserted it into an old player brought by another biker. Static filled the room. Then a familiar voice spoke, a confession revealing secrets that shattered everything she thought she knew. The tape unveiled a story of sacrifice and protection, a hidden truth about her origins and the people who'd risked everything for her safety. Each word struck like thunder, washing away doubts and planting seeds of clarity. The confession wasn't just a revelation. It was a bridge to forgiveness and understanding. Emily's breath caught as tears blurred her vision. The photo and tape were more than memories. They were proof of love, pain, and the tangled webs that had shaped her life. Suddenly, the shadows of the past felt less threatening and more like a path forward. And as the last words echoed through the room, Emily knew this confession would change everything, finally giving her the answers she'd been searching for. Months passed, and the diner, once filled with tension, now buzzed with laughter and warmth. Emily stood behind the counter, a renewed light in her eyes that hadn't been there before. The bikers who once intimidated her had become her family, loyal protectors and friends who respected her strength and kindness. Daniel and Lucas visited often, their presence a constant reminder of how far they'd all come. Old wounds had started to heal, replaced by genuine forgiveness and understanding. Emily's journey had taken her from isolation to connection, from pain to peace, proving that even the deepest scars could fade with time. The community around the diner changed too, drawn by stories of resilience and unexpected alliances. People from all walks of life found a place to belong, inspired by Emily's courage to embrace the unknown and build bridges where others saw only divides. Her new life was a testament to the power of love and second chances. Looking out over the sunset, Emily whispered a quiet thanks for the twists of fate that brought her here. The past no longer held her captive. It was the foundation of her strength. She was ready for whatever came next, knowing she was never truly alone. Emily's heart ached with the weight of past mistakes, but now the chance to make things right burned brighter than ever. She reached out to Lucas, her voice trembling yet full of determination. "Let's fix what was broken." Redemption wasn't just a word. It was a promise to heal wounds that ran deep and long. Lucas nodded, his eyes reflecting a mix of regret and hope. "I never stopped believing we could find our way back," he said softly. Their reunion wasn't just about family. It was a rescue from the loneliness that had haunted them both. In that moment, old pain began to dissolve, replaced by the possibility of a new beginning. Daniel stood quietly by their side, the silent guardian who had watched over them through shadows and storms. His loyalty and courage had become the bridge that connected fractured hearts. The rescue was more than physical, it was emotional salvation, a reclaiming of trust and love. Together, they faced the past with open hearts, ready to rewrite their story. The journey to redemption was painful, but the promise of reunion made every step worth it. Their bond, once shattered, was slowly becoming unbreakable. Life after the storm was different, quieter but full of meaning. Emily woke each day with a heart lighter than before, surrounded by people who had become her chosen family. The diner thrived, not just as a business, but as a sanctuary where laughter and stories filled the air, replacing silence and fear. Some bridges mended slowly, the cracks still visible but growing stronger with each act of kindness. Emily and Lucas rebuilt their bond piece by piece, learning to trust again despite the scars. Others, like old grudges and painful memories, were left behind, burned gracefully in the fire of forgiveness and acceptance. Daniel, Harper, and the bikers remained steadfast, symbols of loyalty and protection in this new chapter. Their presence was a reminder that redemption was possible and that second chances were earned through courage and compassion. Together, they forged a future built on respect and love. Emily learned that healing didn't mean forgetting but embracing the past as part of her strength. Choosing which bridges to rebuild and which to let go became her new power. She faced the future with calm resolve, knowing peace came from within. And as the sun set behind the diner, casting a warm glow, Emily smiled, ready to live this new normal, carrying the lessons of her past while embracing the endless possibilities. Ahead, sometimes the people we least expect become the ones who save us the most. Healing starts when we choose forgiveness over grudges, kindness over judgment. No matter how broken the past, love and compassion have the power to rebuild even the deepest wounds. Remember, your story isn't defined by where you come from, but by the strength you show in rising again. Hold on to hope, because every second chance is a new beginning waiting to happen. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more interesting and valuable content. And hey, if you want to see more creative ideas like this, don't miss the next video.